Good morning, sir.
Morning, please sit down.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, Gunjan. Your very nice name. What does it mean?
Sir, it means the humming of a bhora.
Humming of a bhora. Okay. And which place do you belong to?
I belong to Pithoragarh, that's a district in the state of Uttarakhand.
So I have heard a lot about Pithoragarh. It's a hilly place. Tell me something about the place where you live. What kind of facilities are there? And how is the place coming up? Where do you see your place going to be in next 5 years?
Okay, sir. Pithoragarh is the easternmost district in the state of Uttarakhand. It is a strategically important town as it shares its borders with Nepal and Tibet and has a very important pass, which is the Lipulekh Pass, which will soon be used for the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra. It is also known by the name Mini Kashmir because of the beautiful landscape it has, and it is a home to many trek stations, which are the Dharma Valley Trek, the Panchachuli Base Camp Trek, the Om Parvat, and the Khalya Top Trek. Other than that, it has many temples and also a temple of mythological importance, which is the temple located in Sorry, sir, I forgot the name.
Tell me, no problem. Go ahead. Tell me other things.
Sir, other than that, Pithoragarh is a developing town right now, and since it has a strategic importance, it is protected and secured by three kinds of forces. One is the army, the second is the ITBP, and the third one is the SSB. Now, coming to what is it now, it has a base hospital there. There are many emerging colleges such as the SSB branch college. There is a medical college being constructed recently, and there's also an engineering college in Uttarakhand, in Pithoragarh. So it's coming up to be an educational hub soon. In next 5 years, I see it to be an educational hub, although there needs more emphasis on the healthcare facilities there.
So you have spent your entire life in Pithoragarh?
No, sir. Sir, I have spent my life most of my life in Pithoragarh and some of my life in Dehradun and in Almora.
Okay. And is this your first visit to Dehradun?
No, sir. I have done my graduation from Dehradun.
You spent some time?
Yes, sir.
So what kind of opinion have you formed about Dehradun as compared to Pithoragarh and otherwise also?
Sir, it is much more developed as compared to Pithoragarh. There are many guidance going on here. I wanted to pursue law. We do not have a law college there in Pithoragarh. That's why I came to Dehradun. Other than that, Dehradun has a very pleasant environment. It is not as harsh as Pithoragarh because Pithoragarh is a comparatively colder region. And other than that, there is an ease of transport here. We can easily move from one place to another. And it has many important research institutes such as the Survey Commission, the FRI, and also has academies like the IMA, RIMC, the Labasna. So I feel that Dehradun is much more important as it is the provincial capital city and also the much more developed and an educational hub.
You are happy here?
Yes, sir.
And how has been your experience in Chanakya till now?
It has been good.
Good?
Yes, sir.
Learning?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So Gunjan, what we are going to do during next few minutes, we will talk more about you and cover various areas of your life, like in case you are working, we will discuss about your job, then your education, about your family, your interests, your hobbies, and things like that. I have a little idea about you from this PIQ form that you have submitted, but I feel I need to know more. And this more I would request you to share. Since you have written that you are working as an advocate, so please explain to me the kind of work you are doing, where are you working, what kind of responsibilities, what kind of jobs are you, tasks are you handling, how has been your experience so far in your brief career, are you happy with the atmosphere that you are working for, and about your earnings and your satisfaction level in the job.
Sure, sir. Sir, I've been working as an advocate since the last 6 months in the district and session courts of Pithoragarh. I've been taking cases individually, so I mostly take cases that are related to women and children. And other than that, I take the Negotiable Instrument Act cases, mostly the dishonor of check cases. I've been doing them, and I have currently 7 cases with me, and 2 of them have been come to the disposal and negotiation. Other than that, I also volunteer for the legal aid that is under the district service authority by doing legal camps, and also participate eagerly in the mediations of several family disputes. My current salary is approximately 12,000 because I'm not that regular with my practice, and I'm practicing individually, that's why. But the job satisfaction is good comparatively because of the time that I'm giving. That much is sufficient, and I'm also getting to learn lots of things from senior advocates there. Along with that, I'm also pursuing LLM and preparing for competitive exams.
So you are working with some senior advocate?
No, sir. So I take cases individually.
Individually. So which is better, working with some senior or doing the cases?
Sir, it's always better to work with some senior, but since I cannot give my time entirely towards litigation at this point of time, that's why I'm not under any
So
senior.
you go to courts every day?
No, sir. So weekly I attend the courts for at least 3-4 days a week.
Remaining days you manage your own work.
Yes, sir.
Cases come to you in the house, or you go and approach, or you have an office somewhere?
Sir, even my father is an advocate that gave me a preference for the cases, as he is a government counsel and he works as a chief legal defense counsel. He cannot take cases, and he's a criminal advocate. I mostly work with the civil cases, so that's the reason I have cases and I don't have to go to people.
So your father being an advocate also is helping you.
Yes, sir. Sir, his goodwill works for me as well.
So this 12,000 is fixed, or it is from case to case?
It depends from case to
Case to case. Some months it can be more,
Yes,
sometimes
sir.
it can be less.
Yes.
Fine. Now coming to your education, you tell me about your education starting from class 10 onwards up to the present level. What all have you done? Your grades, percentages, marks that you have achieved through your career. About the co-curricular, extracurricular activities, also you can tell me. And right from during your schooling time, what have been your favorite subjects and which subjects you have not cared much about, that also you can tell.
Sure,
I
sir.
would like to know about your friend circle. Whom do you consider your close friends and why do you consider them close? On the same lines, tell me about the friends whom you avoided. And there must be some reasons why you avoided them. You could tell me that also. Teachers who impressed you very much and the ones whom you did not like that much. With reasons. Finally, what is the career aim that you have and how you are progressing towards your aim?
Okay, sir. I did my schooling, both my 10th and my 12th, from General B.C. Joshi Army Public School, Pithoragarh. I had secured 83.6% in my 10th standard, and my subjects were all the subjects that are being taught. In my class 12th, I took PCB, and I had secured 80.8% there. After that, I pursued BLLB Honours from Law College Dehradun, Uttaranchal University, and secured 86.6% there. Currently, I am doing LLM from Shobhan Singh Jeena University, and in the entrance exam, I had secured 4th rank, so I got the scholarship. So I'm studying in scholarship in that college. My favorite subjects have always been constitutional law and English. In school, English used to be my favorite subject, and social science and biology along with that. My least favorite subject was mathematics. That's the reason I chose humanities along with law after my 12th. My favorite teacher has been Messi sir. He was the English teacher in my school. He is my favorite teacher because he was very strict and he used to pay special attention to the weak students. For example, I was a weak student because I was fluent with my English, but I was a very slow writer. So he used to give me extra homework and additional attention to me being a better writer, so that I was able to score 98 marks in my board exams of 12th. Other than that, the other favorite teacher of mine was actually the senior advocate of Supreme Court, Senior Advocate Ranjit Thomas sir. And he's my favorite because he taught me a lot of valuable lessons in life, not just professionally but also personally. He used to take pro bono cases and constitutional cases. So he said, no matter where you come from, what you do, how you see things and how you come of value to the society in general and how much you can contribute to the society, it is that which counts in total. So other than that, my friends, I have been a very social person because most of my life I've been in hostel. So I had different friends in different phases of life and they are all still my friends. My best friend from school has been Dhriti Raghav and Bhavesh Karnataka. They are my best friends because they've been there throughout my journey, and even though we have parted ways professionally, but they still stay in touch. We all encourage each other, we keep in contact, and also we also guide each other sometimes. In college, two of my best friends were Anushri Joshi and Parthish. Anushri Joshi is also a family friend of mine. She is my best friend because she balances out my personality a lot. And whenever I used to worry, she's such a jolly person that she used to just encourage me for everything. And Parthish is my immediate junior. He was my immediate junior in college. I really admired him because he has a strong sense of time management. He studies, he is into sports, and he also helps his parents with his business. So that's the reason he motivates me a lot. So he came very close to me. The friends I usually avoid are the ones that are not that goal oriented. Yeah, I do keep in touch with them and I always encourage them or participate. But I sort of started keeping my boundaries when I realized that they are not helping me in my personal growth.
Okay. What about the career ambition in your efforts?
So my current career ambition has always been towards law. That is why I did not apply for any other entry. It was specifically the JAG entry. I'm currently pursuing LLM because I want to take up my career in teaching and also litigate in future. And so for that I'm already pursuing LLM. Soon I'll be pursuing PhD too by qualifying UGC NET.
So now that you are doing law and you want to join the armed forces as a law student, I would like to ask you, how does law apply differently in the armed forces as compared to civil law?
Sir, the law that applies to army is very specific. It is divided into acts and procedures which are specifically taught to the armed forces and is governed not by the civil code but by the armed force tribunal that was created in the year 2007. So there are two volumes of the Indian military manual. First consists of the Army Act 1950, then the Army Rules of 1954 and so on. They basically talk about the procedural aspects of army, while the volume 2 is the practical implication which specifically talks about the procedures of how to go on with court martials and stuff like that. So it is different from the civil codes and the ordinary codes because it has its own set of rules. The governing board is different in case of army and it has a specific and less number of offences are listed in the armed codes. And sometimes there is a contradiction whenever there arises a contradiction. Usually the army law prevails other than the cases where it consists of civilian and army persons, then it goes to the normal court.
So which are the cases where civil cannot handle military cases and which are the cases where military cannot handle? Where are the bifurcations? Normally army says we will handle our own case, but some cases they will not be able to handle. There are some cases which civil will not handle, military will. So what kind of differentiation?
So although the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita does talk about the provisions against and in favor of the security of the state, but there are cases such as treason cases and these cases require much more proficiency and understanding. So they are specifically handled by the armed forces. While there are cases of adultery. Sir, recently adultery was decriminalized by the Supreme Court of India. So adultery is no longer an offence, it is just a ground of divorce now. But in armed forces, it is considered to be a serious offence as it is threat to the brotherhood there and the trust too. So adultery cases are also still handled with the army strictly.
Okay. They don't come to civil?
No, sir.
And what are the cases where army cannot handle? It has to come to civil?
Sir, there are cases, sir, the cases that have, sir, sometimes there are cases of maintenance cases between the husband and the wife. They mostly come to the civil. courts. Other than that, sir, all the cases that involve a civilian and an army person, these cases also come to the civil courts. Other than that, sir, appeal also lies to the High Court in most of the armed force tribunal judgments. So, in those cases, when they are of the opinion that they require a better consultant or supervision, then they come to the High Court for such.
What about cases like murder?
Sir, murder cases are also handled with. Sir, it depends. If it is a sovereign duty and in that duty murders are committed, it goes to the tribunal. But if it is reckless murder done not in the official duty but outside the course of duty, then it comes to the civil.
Rape?
Sir, rape also, if it is done. Sir, it depends if it is the sovereign duty or not, but it is mostly handled by the Bharatiya Nyaya
How
Sanhita.
can the rape be on the sovereign duty?
Yes, sir. Sir, it comes under the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, so it is they are punished by the criminal courts.
Not by military.
No, sir.
What about homicide? Culpable homicide not amounting to murder.
Sir, again, the criminal law applies here.
So there are cases where military cannot handle.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what are the legal areas where military generally works? See, it's not that military is committing crimes and they have to be handled. Why there is a requirement of legal team or legal officers in the armed forces? So
Sir,
if you want to join, what will be your work if you join? That's what is my question.
okay, sir. Sir, the first question that why do we need JAG officers in army? It's because, sir, armed force being a institution which has strong sense of discipline. So any conduct which is related to the indiscipline, just like officers not reporting on time or any sort of carelessness done by the officers, these needs to be checked. And not just checked, they also need to be punished for the same. So for that, law has to be upheld. So in order to solve these and uphold law, JAG officers come into play.
Or is it a channel between the military and judiciary?
Yes, sir. JAG officers do have a role of acting as a mediator between the judiciary and the armed forces because they represent them.
So during your school time, what kind of co-curricular, extracurricular activities have you done? And if yes, then what kind of achievements you have those?
Sir, since my school till college, I've always been an active member and participated in lots of co-curricular activities. My favorite ones have been anchoring, debating, volunteering, research work. I was a part of my drama team since 2018 to 2023 and we did many dramas related to social awareness and also participated in a street play competition where we had secured first position in the inter-college street play. Anchoring, I have participated in different literary fests and workshops that were district level and actively participated in them. The other one was debate. I did not practice district level wise, but I was an active participant of the inter-house competitions that used to take place, and once and twice I won gold and silver medal respectively in the debating competition.
You have been in the one SSB before and the result has not been as per your liking.
Yes, sir.
So what have you analyzed about your performance? Where are the areas where you feel you could have done better? Which are the areas where you have worked upon and now you are better prepared for the armed forces, SSB. And where do you put yourself now when you go for second SSB?
Sir, after coming back from the SSB, I was confident sound in the previous one. So when I came back, analyzed it myself and with the help of my cousin brother who's also in army, sir, I came back to the conclusion that I needed lots of improvement in many areas. The foremost was my confidence. I was not that confident about myself in the previous attempt, which made it a bit difficult for me to portray my personality and act to my true potential. The other thing, the test I lacked the most on was the GTO series. So I was unable to prove my mental and physical stamina there. So even the group was not able to perform in the snake race because I had become the liability on the group because of my physical stamina lacking behind. And individual obstacle also I had failed to perform well. that's why I feel those were the things I was lacking on. Sir, I have started improving on it for the next attempt by focusing on 3 areas. First is my knowledge. I started reading the newspaper regularly and started communicating more to develop confidence and knowledge, because if I have the knowledge, I'll have the confidence to speak. The second was my physical stamina. I was more than my body mass index in the month of January. I worked hard. I started going on regular jogs and joined the gym. I've been regular with it and I do it every day. So that way I was able to develop my physical stamina and strength. And the third one is that after reading the books that are already available, I joined the Chanakya Defense College and I took the guidance program of 14 days. It is still going on. And here I am to learn to work on my shortcomings, know my grey areas, and test myself up with the other candidates.
So far you are happy with your preparation?
Yes, sir.
You feel confident?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you not got the SSB college of now?
Yeah, I have received the call letter. It is on 23rd May in Mumbai.
Alright. Now, that gives me some idea about your education related activities and your profession related activities. Now, I would like to shift focus to your family. Tell me about your parents, your father, your mother, their education, their occupation, how do you spend time together, your activities at home. Whom do you approach when you have a problem or when you want to confide some kind of secret? What kind of activities you participate with the family members at home? Pocket money or the money that you earn, how do you manage that money? Tell me about your neighbors. Who are they? What kind of relationship do you share with them? And what cultural, social or other activities you participate when you are in their company?
Sure, sir. So my father, he is an advocate. His name is Mr. Pradeep Pathak. He has been practicing in the district and session courts of Pithoragar as an advocate for the last 25 years. He's currently the Chief Defence Counsel working under the DALSA as a legal aid advisor too. And so he did his MA from Shobhan Singh Jina College itself. And he's a very active person and a very jolly one too. My mother did her MA from JNU. She's currently a social worker and she plays an active role in gender research work too. Sir, the person I look up to is, being a single child, I'm close to both of my parents, and it depends on what kind of problems I'm encountering. If it is about the academics, I mostly approach my father, and when it's about my emotions and everything like that, it is usually my mother I approach to. Coming to my pocket money and the salary I earn, it comes from my father and my mother both, as both of them are working and they are already working professionally. So sometimes whenever I need it, I ask from any of them and they arrange it whenever needed. Sometimes I contribute too. So this way it goes. And other than that, my neighbors, sir, I'm never at a constant place because I'm also pursuing my LLM from Almora. Sometimes I'm in Ascot and for volunteering in the NGO, and sometimes I'm in Pithoragar. So I'll talk about the neighbors on all three places. In Almora, my neighbor is, he belongs to Bajrang Dal. He's a very religious person and their family is very genuine, very humble. They have 2 children and whenever they have any sort of cultural activity, for example, I had my semester exams that were colliding with the Holi. So I went that and witnessed Almora's Holi for the first time. It was very beautiful. The entire village had participated there. So I joined their cultural activity. The next one is in Ascot. Ascot, I have many friends there because I've been brought up there and it's my village too. So the neighbors there are all very jolly. There are total 6 friends of mine. They live in a joint family and one of their father is in army and the other one is a security guard. And so all the students, they are currently, all the children are currently studying. They have a grandmother too. She's very friendly and she's into agriculture. Then coming to Pithoragar, sir, in Pithoragar, my neighbor is a bookseller. wholesale bookseller, the kind of relationship I have with him is mostly the news discussion and the upcoming discussions on the things that have been happening around us, and he also suggests good books to read whenever I come back to Pithoragarh.
So you read newspapers?
Yes, sir.
Now we see a lot of cases are against the ministers of both the ruling party as well as oppositions, and these cases they pop up right before the elections.
Yes.
How do you see these cases? Are these cases not requiring solving, or they are for some other purpose?
So whenever a
Say
case,
for example, National Herald case. Are you aware about National Herald case against the Gandhi family?
sir,
This case is there going on for last about 10-15 years, and it again always comes up before the election. Similarly, raids against people. So, why these cases are not being solved in time?
Sir, this problem can be seen in two ways. The first one is that so mostly these cases arise because it's more for the political whims. The second one is, sir, these cases are not being solved in the same time because they lack evidence to support the same. Sir, and also, sir, politicians have some sort of political immunity too. So, lodging cases, and most of them can be defamatory and even false cases. So, that's why most of the time they are not even paid attention to. So, that might be the reason of it.
Okay. And what is your take when people say that Indian law implementation, punishment implementation is very slow, and sometimes it is not done at all? Is it the real case, or the case is something else, or the lack of evidence?
Sir,
Like for simple case like Nirbhaya case, it took almost 8 to 10 years or maybe more than that. Hanging of Kasam took so much of time. Why these cases take so much time when everybody knows what is the truth?
yes, sir. Sir, it's because the justice mechanism works on the principle of not holding the accused guilty, of holding the accused innocent until proven guilty. And sir, in order to prove an accused guilty for the offence, they need plenty of evidences. Sir, unless it is a strict offence. Sir, when it comes to the Nirbhaya case, sir, earlier the Indian Penal Code of 1860 was lacking that sort of sanction and rigidity to punish the offenders. For that reason, the Criminal Law Amendment Act of 2011 was enforced, looking at the Nirbhaya case, that secured the status of women further to prevent crimes from that place. So when it came to the Ajmal Kasab case, it was a death penalty, and death penalty is given very vigilantly and after intense discussion, and because India follows death penalty, but only in the rarest cases. And we have provisions of mercy petitions going to the President of India. So, sir, in order to get a proper and full compliance of the laws that are made, it takes time.
Is it because of the procedures?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, Manipur, you know the status of Manipur? What is happening in Manipur?
Yes, sir.
Presently, what is the status? Who is the Chief Minister and how is the governance being done?
Sir, I forgot the name of the Chief Minister, but
is there a Chief Minister or there is President rule in Manipur?
Sir, there is emergency rule that has been applied.
So, how a state runs, since you constitutional law and you are interested in political kind of so, how the state runs during President's rule? Who runs the government?
Sir, it goes to the central government rather than the state government, and there the president on the governor's report or on his own whims can change the entire functioning that is done under the Article 356 of the Constitution of India. And sir, in that there are many changes being seen. The fundamental rights, most of them don't get suspended, but there are changes. We have a federal structure in India, but it goes to a unitary structure when it comes to the imposition of emergency, and then the president gets the power to act in the direction and for the interest of the public there. Other than that, sir, the government gets the power to act on the state list, which is otherwise not allowed.
Jammu Kashmir has been broken into union territories. Now, will the state go back to the status of proper recognized state, or it will remain like that? They are asking for status as a state, but why it is not being given?
The status of state, okay.
Statehood is not restored as of now. Why is it not being?
Sir, because the entire history of Jammu and Kashmir and its relation to the Article 370 of Constitution of India has been a very complex phenomena throughout. So even abrogating Article 370 was challenged a lot by the court, and recently it was reformed because it follows asymmetrical federalism, and it was said that even though the Constituent Assembly is not there anymore, but President has the authority to abrogate Article 370, giving it an autonomy. But sir, we are currently making it a duty and not a state, because sir, in UT we have administrators, and UTs are mostly governed by the center. They have more attention, and sir, JNK being a place where we have porous borders, we need the attention of the government and the defense forces. So that's why it is still a UT and not a state.
So what is the current status of India past conflict which is going on after the Dehradun incident? What happened?
Sir, this time the status is very full of tensions. Sir, since India has suspended the Indus Water Treaty, and after this, Pakistan had said that any threat to our water bodies would be considered an act of war. So, in order to prepare itself, India is doing mock drills, and today it will be observed in around 244 districts. Other than that, sir, the diplomats that were Pakistani diplomats, they have all been suspended and sent back to Pakistan. So all the people holding visas, and they were all Pakistan, they were also sent back. Meanwhile, Pakistan has suspended the permission of Indian aircrafts or any choppers being and passing through the territory of Pakistan, and even they have suspended the diplomats of India that were staying in Pakistan. So the intensity of the dispute this time is very high.
Do you think, when did you read last about the present situation?
So today, because it was written today that around 244 districts of India will be having a mountain.
Has India carried out attack anywhere in Pakistan?
Yes, sir. Sir, I forgot the name of the operation, but recently it was done along the line of the LOC.
When?
And
When was it done?
So last week.
What is the name of the operation?
Yes, I forgot the name. Sir, I was reading it, but I cannot recall at the moment.
So, Gunjan, we have spoken so much about you, starting from your basic profession, your education, family, other activities. Is there something left that we have not discussed and you feel I should know? Well, you should not go back saying that I have not told this, I should have told.
Sir, you did not ask me why I want to join the JAG branch.
I don't want to know the reason. I just want to know that, I know that you want to join, but I would like to ask you, why do you feel you are suitable for the armed forces? What are the qualities that you have that will make you suitable to join the armed forces? You can answer me in that.
Okay, sir. Sir, I have a wide experience of total 8 internships I've done. That has been under the Assistant Prosecution Officer, the District Magistrate, the Honorable High Court Judge of the Nainital High Court. And thereafter, I've done my internships from different advocates of district courts, high courts, and the Honorable Supreme Court of India. That gives me wide range of experience in the legal research and and proficiency in dealing with the cases. Along with that, my own practicing in the district and session courts made me realize that I do have problem-solving skills that can be a crucial set for JAG entry. Sir, other than that, I have organizing ability. I have social adaptability. I can change, and I'm an extrovert, and I carry empathy. That makes it easier for the clients to reach me out. So these are the qualities for which I will be a suitable
That's
candidate.
very nice. Now, you know yourself more than anybody else. I would like to know, what do you feel are the assets of your personality? And one or two areas where you feel you need improvement or improvement is possible. I'm not saying weak points, but wherever you feel you are working for improving it.
Sir, my strong points are my social adaptability, my extroverted nature, and my sincere approach towards my work. So the areas I need to work on is still my stamina. I'm continuously doing that. Sir, my problem solving skills, I'm working on them in day-to-day life. And other than that, sir, maths, because we still have basic calculations being done and reasoning that includes maths. So I ignored it before, but I'm working towards solving those two.
So very nice talking to you, and I thank you for sharing about yourself. Now, anything more you would like to tell me, or something you would like to ask before we leave this room?
No, sir.
No? You're wonderful, and continue working hard. All the best and good luck.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.